Welcome to GreenBites, Sustainable Asia's weekly environmental news podcast. I am Bonnie Au.
And I'm Avery Choi. In just 10 short minutes, we're going to tell you hand-picked green stories from Asia that we think you should know about.
Welcome back. This week, we're going to talk about an environmental activist court case in Cambodia, China's battles to contain buildings in conservation areas, and a mysterious skin disease among sharks in Malaysia.
Cambodian officials arrest 4 activists from a green advocacy group named Mother Nature on June 16th for documenting waste runoff into capital city, Phnom Penh's Tonle Sap River. But only days later, a Cambodian court charged all 4 activists with, quote, conspiracy to plot and for insulting the king.
So a bit of context here. Tonle Sap is Cambodia's biggest lake and Southeast Asia's most extensive freshwater lake, with rich vegetation and abundant fish resources, which provide for millions of people living around the region. But it has become a focal point for environmental activists in recent years as the river is drying up, posing a threat to the fishing community.
Among the 4 activists is the co-founder of Mother Nature, Alejandro González Davidson. The Spanish co-founder was deported from Cambodia in 2015 after criticizing a controversial dam in the country. He is currently living overseas.
From what I understand, Cambodia has a constitutional monarchy with lèse-majesté laws enacted in 2018 that forbid insulting the king. So Avery, what is the punishment if they get convicted with such a charge?
The 4 individuals will face up to 15 years in prison. So that would be 5 for insulting the king and 10 years for conspiracy.
Right, and this is not the first time that members of Mother Nature were arrested. The environmental rights group gained attention from the Cambodian government as recently as last month, when 3 environmental campaigners of the organization were jailed for about 18 to 20 months for organizing a peaceful protest to voice against authorities filling in one of the last remaining lakes, the Lake of Bung Tamok, in the capital city of Phnom Penh. The recent harassment from the Cambodian government has led to the U.S. pulling out from the Greening Prey Lang project funded by the U.S. Agency of International Development. The 5-year project aims to promote resilient, low-emission development and inclusive and sustainable management of the Prey Lang extended landscape in north-central Cambodia. The U.S. halted over $100 million in funding and has distributed the money to civil society groups on environmental protection.
Some human rights groups have also condemned the arrests. In a joint statement signed by the Cambodian League for the Protection and Defense of Human Rights and 74 other groups, they urged authorities to, quote, stop imprisoning and start listening to our youth activists who are on the front line, documenting the risks Cambodia faces from natural resource exploitation and environmental degradation.
Next up, we're going to look at China's Yunnan province, where the pristine green mountainscape of Changyao on the east bank of Dianchi Lake has now turned into a concrete mountain full of man-made villas. Environmental inspectors found out in May that over 1,000 villas and flats were built illegally on the hillside, taking up more than 90% of the mountain surface. Some of them are even built on a primary conservation area.
So, what happened when the inspectors found out about the illegal development?
At least 47 villas under construction and 36 completed units have already been torn down. Authorities gave a September deadline, ordering all the other illegal buildings to be demolished. Trees are also required to be planted in the area to help restore the damaged ecosystem.
I believe this isn't the first time environmental inspectors spotted this illegal development, right?
Yeah, so in 2016, inspectors from Beijing pointed out the illicit construction activities on the primary conservation area. And yet, local officials neglected to stop the developers. Critics slammed the local authorities for not intervening to protect the area. Then, 2 years later, in 2018, Kunming North Star Group built more villas for tourism, but with a license for healthcare homes, which is the only kind of facility allowed in the secondary conservation areas.
The Yanji Lake and Changyao Mountain have long been victims of environmental pollution since the 1980s, with mining and chemical manufacturing in the area. Local authorities managed to close down many of these factories in the 2000s, but then at the same time, real estate developers introduced another wave of illegal construction projects.
Before we end this episode, here's our last news bite about whitetip reef sharks in Malaysia. Photos of one of these sharks, taken by an underwater photographer in Sabah State on Borneo Island, went viral, as the head of the shark appeared to have spots and lesions on its head. Just to introduce this type of shark to our audience, the whitetip reef sharks are known for the distinctive white tips on their fins. They are a common and broadly distributed species and are also nocturnal. One of the things that they like to do is pile on top of each other and lie motionlessly for hours, because this species doesn't need to move when it breathes.
So back to the photographer, these sharks showed an apparent mysterious skin disease. A team of marine biologists began to investigate, together with amateur divers and experts from conservation groups, universities, and governments. They found that similar symptoms appeared on every group of sharks they encountered in Sipandan Island.
While a full scientific study is yet to be conducted, it seems that climate change could be a factor, as the sea surface temperatures around the island have gone up by 1 degree since 1985. The observations also coincide with reports of coral bleaching in the area. The team also tried to capture some of the sharks to obtain samples for testing, as this can help them identify the pathogenic cause of the lesions. However, they failed, so the team is aiming to try another time in July.
So this is all we have for this week's Green Bites. If you have any news stories that you think we should highlight, let us know on our social media platforms with the hashtag #ShareYourBite.
Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast channels for more content, and share our podcast with your friends and family. If you're interested in sponsoring GreenBites or have any comments about our content, we would love to hear from you. Email us using communications@sustainableasia.co or drop us a line on social media. Our handle is @sustainableasia. Thanks for listening.